North, and this is Arse Kicker 2. It's an invention I made when I was about 20. I was a student and studying invention at the time, and I needed a way to earn some money over the summer and travel, see a few new sites. I wanted to spend the summer playing, really. I'm going to be talking to you about balance between work and play and how that affects our lives. I'm an inventor, a visual artist, filmmaker, musician, and also a teacher. And I've worked in lots and lots of different spheres, and I've always been interested in this idea of work and leisure. And so we're going to explore some of the ideas today. In our spare time, we have lots of things we can do. And I'm going to look at how it all shapes together. And I want to start with my real love, which is inventing. So I started inventing. I also looked at the way nature invents, biomimicry, looking at how nature has designed things and how nature, we can find inspiration from different designs. And I used to come back to the Isle of Man and kayak around the coast, always looking at nature and seeing what could we learn. And I do remember I always passed the seals gathered around the coast, and they'd be lying on the rocks with their flippers, just scratching, smiling. I used to just spend hours watching them. They'd be swimming, playing. It only took them 2 or 3 hours to actually feed themselves. And I could never work out why we, as the clever, intelligent humans, were spending so long of our lives working, so little time playing. So, as an inventor, I went on to look at nature, and I managed to design a wing for a turbine blade based on the snowy owl, whose silent flying profile made it very quiet flying. And we managed to design a wind turbine that was almost silent. So, at the moment, the UK has one of the highest working hours in Europe. And our emotional well-being is suffering. Our emotional and mental health is suffering. I'd like to tell you a story about, in my 30s, I worked as a play therapist. I had a mobile play van, which was actually a VW camper van. It was an ex-army one from Germany from the 1970s. So I always like to think of the soldiers piling out of a VW camper van to try and stop a war. It used to have lots of play items in it, and I would turn up if I was called to help disturb children. So I would arrive with the camper van full of toys and adventure things, and I'd like to tell you about one boy in particular who, for a whole year, had not been going to school. He's been going to school, but his parents have been dragging him on his heels the 100 yards it was to school. He eventually threw himself down the stairs. He was 9, so he didn't have to go to school. There was something really wrong. And so I turned up, and through play, we went out and we made boomerangs, we threw them around, we paddled up the river, and over the period of weeks, through playing, we got to know each other. And emotionally, he got stronger, and we worked out that he'd been told that to be a mechanic, he needed to be good at maths. Now, he was obsessed with building engines. He could rebuild anything in seconds. And this is devastating, because he'd failed the maths test. And he no longer thought he could follow his passion, which was for dismantling engines, putting them back together. And so he'd given up on life. He'd given up on that part. We all need play. Neuroscience has now found that the connection between our brains and play activity, it's so strong. It actually generates optimism. It generates emotional strength. And if we don't play, actively play, we're in trouble. It's one of the reasons that all of the TV that we watch, all of the top shows, we're watching other people playing, making cakes, playing, dancing, all of those different, singing. It's playing music. The UN Happiness Index is a new list that's out, and it shows the happiest countries. And it's quite an important list now. Everyone's clamouring to find out, how can we improve our lives, and where do we sit on this happiness index? They take into account lots and lots of different factors, and, well, the winners: Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, and Holland. Top 5. The very same countries that have the lowest working hours in Europe. So, Holland has an average of 29 hours a week. That is a 4-day week. The UK, current average is 39, and that is the average. So what would you do? What would you do with those 10 days? I'm encouraging us to all play. Now, I'm using the word play. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your leisure time. I'll give you a little bit of history though. We used to just have one day off, Sunday for the Sabbath. What you probably don't know is that at a point in time, the workers got so drunk on a Sunday that they never showed up on a Monday. That is the origins of the 5.5-day week. They decided to give them Saturday afternoon off. They had to promise to be in on the Monday, but they gave them Saturday. That is the origins of the 5.5-day week. Try and control the drunkenness. In my 20s, I was an animator and graphic designer in the Hebrides in Scotland. And I worked hard. I was always learning new things, coming up with different designs, trying out animations, and it was hard work. But eventually I managed to win an award for one of the designs, and the boss called me and he said, "Andy, I think we need to talk about a pay rise." I said, "Thank you. Well, how about I work 4 days a week and you pay me the same?" And to my surprise, he said yes. The thing about the 4 days that I started doing, I started producing the same amount in 4 days as I did in 5. And these are the findings. They've been finding this for a long time. It's almost the secret information. If you work less hours, Parkinson's law states that the activities will fill the time that is available. So by working less, working 20% less during the week, so from 5 days to 4 days, is 20% less. But it's 50% more. 50% more weekend. The figures add up. Henry Ford found this out in 1914. And what was unique about this was that he lowered the number of working hours quite significantly and doubled his workers' pay. And all the other captains of industry laughed. They laughed and pointed and went, "Oh, it's Henry Ford, he's crazy." And what happened? productivity shot through the roof. His profits shot through the roof. And they all started copying him. That's the origins of the 8-hour working day. So, I'd like to talk about newspaper round I had. When I was 11. It was hard work. I noticed it took a lot of my time, and it was, time consuming, putting a newspaper through every letterbox. Till I noticed there was some small children hanging around in the estate. So I bought some very small packets of sweets and gave them sweets and said, here's a pile of papers. Put them through all the doors. They were very happy. They worked for a small packet of sweets, and my work time reduced significantly. I got to keep most of the money. And I enjoyed capitalism. The only problem is with our present system is that the global economy has growth of 1.3%. That's pretty much for the last 40 years. It's been steadily, I don't know if growing is the right word, is it really? 1.3%. The paper round isn't really getting bigger. And what we have noticed, I'm afraid, the cat is out of the bag, that in the UK and the US, 10% of the population now takes 90% of the income growth. So, I'm sorry, but on the paper round, there is a few more profits, but we are all settling for the same small packet of sweets. It stopped making us richer, and it started making us unhappier, the present system. My granddad was 64, and I was 15. And I remember him, he was talking about all the things he was going to do when he retired. He'd been a songwriter and composer. He loved playing his organ on a Sunday. He died 6 months after he retired. And for him, the work-life balance, it simply hadn't paid out. And palliative nurses and doctors who interview dying patients, they have been recording their biggest regrets for a long time. And I'll give you a clue. Number one, every male patient said, I wish I hadn't spent so much time working. Number two on the list, I wished I'd followed my dreams more. Number three, I wish I'd spent more time with my family. Well, when I ended up with a 4-day week in Skye, I managed to use the spare time to learn how to be a mountaineer. I played in the mountains, and I got a qualification which meant I could travel the world as a mountain guide. In just one day, we can learn all kinds of skills. Where people are working less, families are benefiting. Communities benefit because we've got more time to give to the people around us. The planet is benefiting because we're using a lot less carbon getting to work. We're using a lot less resources. And people have more time to start following their dreams. So, may I wish you a pleasant 4-day week in the future. Thank you.